There's one thing that we all have in common in this room. We're all desperately lost. The physicists don't know how the universe will end, and they're not sure how it began. The artists don't know what their next work will be. The teachers don't know what their students will grow up to do. The students don't know what they'll grow up to do themselves. How do we abide this condition of being lost? We do it by keeping track of our stories. Physics is a story. It's a story of the universe, and it's also the story of science itself and the scientists who've pursued the questions that physics concerns itself with. Because one thing I've learned about knowledge through the years is it begins in ignorance. Locked in this room, in the heads of you people, are the secrets of artificial intelligence, the origins of the universe, how to succeed in business, and yet it's all very quiet. How would you know that it was all in here? You have to ask. As a 4-year-old, I wasn't embarrassed about asking. As a 15-year-old, I started to get embarrassed, and I started to pretend I knew things. That's when my education slowed down. What happened after that was I learned to please teachers. What happened after that was I learned to look smart. What happened after that was I learned to pretend I knew what was in the book from reading the back cover of the book. It's not a very useful lesson that there's something called mankind and that despite our superficial differences, we all have some essential similarity. People who have this colored skin, that colored skin, wrinkled skin, smooth skin, really don't matter much. We could all switch hair in this room and it wouldn't matter much. What would happen is it would reveal the fact that we are mankind. It doesn't help you make money to know that there's such a thing as mankind. In fact, the people who make money often do it by making you feel bad about yourself and then selling you something that will make you feel good again. They often make their money by telling you that mankind is everybody but you, and if you want to be accepted, you need to do what they tell you or wear what they have for you or repeat after them in some fashion. I knew there was mankind, and I had nothing at all to do with this knowledge. Didn't know how to make it work for me, as it were. There's only one job in the world, in fact, which the knowledge of mankind is useful to, and that's writing novels, which are really just stories about people, pretty much all with the same moral, which is we don't know much, but we sure do try. And simply ask everybody I met who they were, what they did, where they came from. I practiced that discipline, I suppose, all my life. And as I learned growing up, the more stories you accumulate, the less certainty you have about what's right and wrong, the less surety you have that you're right about anything, or but as time goes on, you start to learn that everybody has an answer, and an answer of his or her own. And one day I was sitting on a plane, the same little boy who'd been 4 years old, and I turned to the guy next to me, and as I usually do, I opened with my easiest ice-breaking question. I said, "Where are you from?" And this man said, "Right here." I was sitting on a plane. I said, "What do you mean, right here?" He said, "Seat 4E, that's where I'm from." I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, oh, are you asking, do I have a home? And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, the answer is I do, right here." And I said, "Well, please explain." And he said, "Well, I used to have an apartment in Atlanta. I'm a management consultant. And I found myself on the road 300 days a year, so I gave it up because it was just a place to accumulate mail. And then I found out that there's this thing called Marriott Extended Stay Hotels. And so they have kitchens and they have a bed and pretty much everything you need to live. So I go from one to the other, and I carry one carry-on bag. And my friends are all around you on the plane here. I know the flight attendant. I know the pilot. I know the guy in security back in Minneapolis at the airport we got on this plane. And this is my life, these are my people, and this is my home. And I felt a little like a biologist discovering a new species in the Amazon. I said, wow, it's possible to be a person, to be a human being, and not have an address. It's possible to be a human being and not have neighbors. It's possible to be a human being and have your friends be people who you meet as you travel and never see again. And this man does it. And I talked to him for about 40 minutes, and then I got off the plane, and I thought about his life, and I thought about what it must be like to see the world from his perspective, and the things that made him happy, and the times when he was lonely, and what his hopes might be, and what his fears might be. And I wrote a novel imagining what it was like to be this man whose name I never learned. And that novel became a movie, and George Clooney became the face of that character. I was able to meet him on the set, and to me, he represented the face of what had been called mankind, a much better looking version, but he showed me, and as this character did, that we can live in almost any situation. We can live in the middle of our lostness, literally on a plane between airports, in the middle of the air, suspended by a machine we don't even know how to run. And yet, we can be on our way somewhere. You know, this character was my tribute to the ways that human beings adapt to any environment. You know, they can live in the desert, they can live on an island, they can live in the rainforest, and they can also live in the middle of airports. That's the most astonishing lesson yet. Most of what I've done in life I've never expected. Most of what I've searched for I've never found, and most of what I've found I didn't look for. So what I offer you as advice, because I promised that I'd tell you no lies, is this. Understand that you are all living in the middle of a story. Your own, your societies, your planets, and that its ending is not certain, perhaps not even imaginable, that its beginnings are probably not even knowable. Take the story of your birth and your life and make it the most important story you know, and then fit it into the story of the people around you, which is just as important, and fit it into the story of your planet and your universe, if your imagination can reach that far. But don't jump to the end before it comes. Don't think you know what it means before you do. And don't pretend that it makes sense if it doesn't. And you'll find you've lived a good life when it all comes down. I want to add one funny little thing about stories. They always involve coincidences. That coincidence suggests to me, as it does to writers, that I'm in the right place at the right time. And though you may not know whether you're in the right place or at the right, on the right path, I think one way to sort of get a glimpse of that is to look around and see whether or not the friends you're meeting this weekend, the ideas you're having, the intuitions that are forming in the back of your head feel like they can sustain a story. The one thing I don't want to do is decide who I am before I've become that person. And I hope that none of you who have decided and put little words on your name tag describing you and your identities have finished your story yet. Consider yourself always in the middle, and I think the endings will always be happy ones.